Good evening, St. Lucia, and welcome to another SLP Town Hall Tuesday. I am your host, Mondi Lewis. This evening, I have with me remotely former Minister for Health, Ms. Alvina Reynolds, and the endorsed candidate for Soufrière Forget-Jacques, Ms. Emma Hippolyte. Good evening, ladies, and welcome to SLP Town Hall Tuesday.
Good evening, Mondi. Good evening to St. Lucians, wherever you are. Thank you very much for having me again.
Good evening, Mondi. Good evening, Soufrière. Good evening, St. Lucia. Good evening, mothers, fathers, all those affected by COVID. Stay strong, St. Lucia.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies, for joining me. And Sister Hippolyte, I do hope that I get my branded Emma Cares mask very soon.
You will.
Okay, St. Lucia, last week we spoke about the health crisis facing St. Lucia. We had with us Minister for Health, former Minister of Health, Sister Alvina Reynolds, and she was cut off. But we brought her back because this discussion needs to be had. We see yet another COVID-19 related death this evening, and we would like to extend our condolences to the family for the loss of their loved ones. And we've seen some movement by the government in relaxing some COVID-19 protocols. But what we also see is a declining testing, and that is very worrisome. We see again that small businesses, persons who've been laid off for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and those who have been unemployed for months, people in the creative industry still haven't received any economic stimulus from the government. And we're asking, what about the needs of our people? We have seen that St. Jude's is nowhere near completion. The St. Lucia Labour Party left it nearly done. And right now we see the government going on and really a facade. And this is what Sister Reynolds was speaking to us last week about. And we'll really again delve into why isn't St. Jude's Hospital completed for the people of St. Lucia, the people of the South, to have a state-of-the-art facility. Sister Reynolds, could you again just bring us back to where we were when the St. Lucia Labour Party left government in 2016 with the St. Jude's Hospital?
Yes, thank you again, Mondi, and good evening to dear people of St. Lucia. Again, I would like to add my voice in extending my deepest condolences to the family members and loved ones of persons who have passed, especially recently. And by extension, I wanted to mention two families, the Lesmore family of Dennery South, wife and I think it's a brother of Remy Lesmore, our deceased parliamentarian, and also the Venet family of Chassin and Labrie on the passing of your loved ones. They didn't pass because of COVID, but I wanted to extend because these are people who are close to me. So, and I want to say a special good evening to Elicious. When I was shut out last week and I was wondering what was going on, he was the first person who was able to call me in a very gentle voice to ask me, Miss Reynolds, are you okay? He's my former student from secondary school. So thank you so much, Alicia. That voice was really reassuring when I wasn't sure what was happening last week. Yes, Mondi, the problems are mounting. I want to say that I saw photos being circulated about cladding happening at the site in Vieux-Fort, the other St. Jude building. And then I was very pleased when Sister Cornelia Jacob did a live video visit of the building down there, the structure, and I was horrified at what I saw. This thing is no way, I know people will take offense with me calling it thing, but I really do not know what is going on there, because you've left a building or buildings, a whole space that was near completion, 90% complete. Buildings were covered, painted, flooring, windows, you name it, done, chapel, morgue, a lot of facilities, the oxygen generator plant, lots of things, and equipment there as well in storage. And you've moved to construct a facility that I am not an engineer, but what I've been hearing from people like Mark Hennicott, etc., this is nowhere near completion. And I remind the people of St. Lucia that the St. Lucia Labour Party never stopped working on St. Jude Hospital. The only time that there were a few days work stopped was when one employee at the site was killed because of an accident with a blade. And as a sign of respect, the employees, the whole team, laid down their tools for a few days, and they had to go through debriefing, trouble counseling, etc. And then they were back on site. They never, even when there was no money in the terms of grants or funds, Dr. Anthony made, the Ministry of Finance made funds available, and every month there was a report, okay, a hard copy report presented to myself as minister, to Dr. Anthony, to the PS, etc., in finance and health from Shanta King, the engineer on site. So we knew what was going on, and the government of St. Lucia, especially the Prime Minister, and he was MP, he is MP for Vieux Fort South, wanted a state-of-the-art health facility, hospital, top-class hospital for the people of the South and the surrounding communities. Monies became available through the loan from the Bank of Taiwan, the government of Taiwan. It took a long time, I must admit, but it came through, and we were close to finishing. We had the commissioning team in place. They had plans to move into the first wing and, stagger the commissioning, the transition into St. Jude Hospital. All of that was in place. They gave, and I am bold enough again to say that they gave a completion date of February 2017. They gave that to me. The team down at Vieux Fort, the board, etc., gave that date, okay, based on where they saw things were. So all the quarrel about giving dates and all this, the people on site, the persons who were responsible, would give that date. So we were ready, St. Lucia. Vieux Fort, Dennery, Micoud, Choiseul, ready for the new St. Jude. But what we have now, we have gone back years, okay, in terms of getting a facility, the state-of-the-art facility that was ready for Vieux Fort. We have gone back years. I don't know when we will get ready to move.
And thank you for that, Sister Reynolds. And whilst the St. Jude's Hospital was being built, you had multiple things going on. You had the commissioning of OKEU Hospital, and there were also plans for Victoria Hospital. So could you bring us through again what was happening? Again, you had two major hospitals, being one ready to open, one opening.
And one completed.
Oh yeah, and one completed.
Dennery Hospital was completed.
And another completed.
Yeah.
So you had so many things happening. So tell us about the plans for a Victoria Hospital, even if, that's again, the move there was 4.5 years later.
Yes, with the date given for the commissioning and transitioning into OKEU, we had decided as government that the Victoria Hospital would not be abandoned. There was a need for the city area and environs, the communities in Castries Basin. So there was a plan for an urban polyclinic that Victoria Hospital would be upgraded or transformed into an urban polyclinic. And we were excited about that. As you may well know, and persons within the north of the island may know, that there are health centers, one in Entrepot, T. Rocher Castries, and the Castries Health Center. Okay, the other health center closest would be in Cicerone Castries South. And so the people within the Castries Basin, which has the largest population in the island, would need a facility that they could go to, because you go to the hospital when it's an emergency, etc. But the first point of primary health care would be at the health centers or wellness centers. Okay, now these health centers within the Castries Basin, they are overwhelmed. Just go to the Castries Health Center on any given day, well, not for COVID now, but any given day, and you'd see the number of people who were there, okay, who would be there accessing health care at the primary health facility. So we wanted to do something more for the people in the Castries Basin and up it a bit. Not only would it be for primary health care, but the polyclinic would have the dental and a lot of equipment in terms of testing, etc. Just like we have at the Grosile Polyclinic, and probably have extended hours like we did when Sister Emma demanded that we have extended hours at the Grosile Polyclinic. We also, as we saw, Babono was a growing constituency. We were also planning to extend the hours in the Babono Health Center and upgrade it to a polyclinic as well. So the plans were evolving for health care for the people of St. Lucia. As I've said before, we have stalled, or we have gone back years, 10 years, I would say, based on where we found it at the Ministry of Health and where we were moving, okay, in terms of the plans laid out. Everything stalled and others moved back. It's very, very unfortunate.
Okay. Whenever you speak about this, it just brings back some of the senseless deaths that, have occurred as a result of, persons not being able to access proper health facilities in St. Lucia. Again, St. Lucia, it is unacceptable that an OKEU was there for 4.5 years and we did not move into it. But let's talk about universal health care, because even that was going on. Again, when people say that, Labour Party didn't do this, the proof is there. Again, St. Jude's Hospital near completion, a commissioning of OKEU, we had major health centers. We were actually doing universal health care also, and a big component of that would have been primary health care facilities. So, Stavina, could you again speak to me on that? And then we will bring in Ms. Hippolyte, because she too would have pioneered a UHC through the NIC some years, even some years before that.
Yeah. Yes, Mondi, again, another unfortunate situation for health in this country. The Labour Party government prior to 2011 to 2016, while in office with Sister Emma and the NIC and Dr. King and a group, worked tirelessly and into the wee hours of the morning, non-stop putting together the plan for UHC. And the government of the United Workers' Party came in and shelved it. It did not move at all. When we came into office in 2011, we picked up this report. And we couldn't just implement because a lot of things had changed. So you needed to be aware of what was happening among the population in terms of diseases, in terms of what was affecting them. So we had to commission another kind of assessment research, and we also had to look at the health financing strategy. Thanks to the EU, they kind of sponsored a health financing strategy with Professor Carl Theodore and John Armstrong, and we got moving again, and we had a consultant at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Zeister Edmonds, with Chief Health Planner and her team. They got into, situation analysis, financing options, methodology of the health financing strategy. Lots of work went into it, and there by 29th of February, the first draft was 2016, that is, was presented. And I remember at Bay Gardens Hotel on a Saturday, Monday, Sister Emma joined, and Professor Theodore made the presentation to us and the persons from the finance department and the Ministry of Health, and we were getting ready to submit or make a presentation to Cabinet after people had given feedback. And I was very grateful because I know That is something St. Lucians were waiting for. They expected it, they wanted it, and so we were pushing the best way we could to get it going. And it was also about the benefit package. What would be the packages that would be offered to people and how much it would cost and where would the money come from. And I made it my business Monday this afternoon to list some of the what was in the benefit package, you know, the different types of cancers that St. Lucians are suffering from. You have breast, colon cancer, cervical cancer, stomach cancer, and prostate cancer. That was in the package to be considered. The two most expensive ones, it said, was the cardiovascular diseases and hypertension would be costing a lot. The communicable diseases, that means infectious diseases, dental care, diabetes, eye care, family planning, hearing health, maternal and child health, men's health services, mental and substance abuse, respiratory, sickle cell anemia, trauma and injury. All of these were in the package, for the benefit of St. Lucians, and it was being costed. And the question was, where would we get the money to pay? Because the issue was people unable to pay out of pocket. So part of the UHC means that would be health insurance, etc. So the plan was, again, we had to start all over to a point. It was being laid out, and by February of 2016, we had the draft completed, presentations made, feedback had to be given, and then to present to Cabinet by March 22nd. That was the date that was given by the team. And this government has come in, and what has happened to UHC? Last time I heard the Minister for, almost said concrete and steel, but Money, help me, please. The Minister for Economic Development, saying people, babies that are on board would have insurance, and telling people that was almost 2 years ago, and nothing has happened since as it pertains to health insurance. Okay, last I heard they're trying to contact insurance companies here on Ireland to see what they can offer. This is too late for that. They have messed it all up. So when the Labour Party comes in again, we have to go back to the drawing board. So that will be the third report. I mean, this is money going down the drain the first time. And, the people from the various ministries and the NIC who put all the hours, the sweat, and the time to do this, and they become demotivated every time to go back to the drawing board and go back to the drawing board. We have to get this. We cannot afford to continue like this. A government comes in, what is good for the citizenry, you must continue. You have no business stopping something as important as UHC. It was a priority for the people of St. Lucia. It wasn't a Labour Party plan. It was a plan for the people of St. Lucia, and they have messed it all up. So the Labour Party, when they come into office, I have heard the political leaders say, and I endorse it, that it will be continued. It will be upfront as a priority for the Labour Party administration when we come into office this year.
Thank you, Sister Alvina. And Sister Emma, because you are on the ground in Soufrière Fort St-Jacques, I know that some of the requests that you get must be for healthcare. And as somebody who was integral in the development of UHC through the NIC, what do you think are some of the missed opportunities? What are the experiences that you are having in Soufrière Fort St-Jacques?
Thank you, Mondi. Again, I want to echo some of the issues raised by Sister Alvina. And we have to put that in the context of a small island state and the limited resources that we have. And it is important that when we speak to our people, people realize that we need to have leaders who understand what it is to lead and to utilize the resources of our country. Because when the UHC started, when Dr. Anthony gave us that task, actually all the work that was done at the beginning was done by about 100 volunteers. We pulled people from public sector and private sector, and they gave up their time. The medical association, people worked, committees worked. And then we brought it to a point where we thought we could have, we came to a point, we were able to test over 30,000 persons in the community. We pilot tested free medication for diabetes and hypertensive patients. And that was saying you were on the right footing. There was a change of administration and it was dropped. All of that, the people is worse off for it. What is on the ground? When you look at Soufrière, Fauché-Jacques, we have the same challenges that is throughout the country. Soufrière, Fauché-Jacques, when you look at what has happened to our hospital, we have a structure that was a fully functional hospital. I can remember my first sister was a nurse, so I was in and out of that hospital. It had a maternity wing, it had a children's ward, it had a male ward, it had a female ward. Now, when you go to that hospital now, there is one unisex ward. I mean, when I went there, I was taken aback. It has 3 beds. When I went in there, men and women together. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for us. But not only that, the health care and the services. The problems that we have every day, people come to my office and they go to the Soufrière hospital for basic medication and they cannot get the medication. It is not available. Now those persons then have to maybe try to get it at the private pharmacies. Now in that particular case, the medication is a little bit more expensive than if we had it at the Soufrière hospital. Now you have to look at the context of Soufrière like everybody else, and that is before COVID and during COVID. People have limited resources. So what you find, you have persons that are supposed to be on medication, and because they do not have the financing, they go without. So you have the complication, So if you are diabetic and you're hypersensitive, you're supposed to have your medication to keep your blood pressure. When you don't take it, then it impacts your kidney. If you're diabetic, it impacts your eye. And the whole thing is just a roller coaster. I think not only Soufrière, but all of St. Lucia deserve a better healthcare system. When you look at the story of St. Jude's in particular, this is a national disaster. And really, we should be holding people accountable. We should be holding people accountable. You cannot have a structure that was already so advanced, where you have an administration comes in, sit for how many years, do nothing, and then to try to brainwash the people, you go and demolish buildings that were already completed. Then you try to put a structure in place, go and borrow a lot of money again, and then it is there, and then you're going to put some fancy rendering and try to fool the people. A hospital is just not a building. A hospital is the service that it provides. So now you have an administration that has been in office. June will be 5 years. They inherited a hospital, almost completed. They've damaged it. They've brought it far. In fact, they've brought it 5 years back. It is now worse than when, in a worse position than when they came into office. But if you listen to the PR of the Prime Minister and the Minister for Economic Development, it is in such an advanced stage. We must, when we call ourselves persons who provide a service, who offer to serve the people, we cannot continue trying to brainwash them. Because now we have had COVID. The situation is worse. I am told that at VH, they don't have beds to deal with the persons. Look at the number of beds at Victoria Hospital, and when you listen to the number of active cases of COVID, surely we now have to go into hotels to accommodate some persons and quarantine. All of that is not utilizing our limited resources in the most effective way. And people have to be real about this. You know, when you can't do something, if you can't cook the meal, get out of the kitchen.
Indeed. Thanks for that, Sister Hippolyte. St. Lucia, this was our first segment of SLP Town Hall Tuesday. We're due for a break, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to SLP Town Hall Tuesday. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and again, my guest, former Minister for Health, Sister Alvina Reynolds, and the candidate for Soufrière Force Jacques, Sister Emma Hippolyte. Sister Hippolyte, we left off with you speaking about the issues of healthcare in Soufrière Force Jacques, and you brought up a very interesting point about some of the, yes, we're experiencing COVID-19, but every day people are coming and seeking health assistance for other diseases, for other health-related illnesses, and that's a fact that, yes, we have COVID-19, but something still exists. We still saw the rise and lots of cases of dengue. I had a friend who passed also as a result of the hemorrhagic fever. And we're not hearing the addressing of these issues. We're hearing really nightmare stories from persons going to seek assistance for a lot of, whether it's diabetes, hypertension. And on the topic of diabetes, I recall that the St. Lucia Labour Party had a plan for a diabetes center. And Sister Alvina, I think you probably will be well placed to speak about that for us.
Yes, Mondi, and I'm sure you can remember, Sister Emma, even in the House, she would speak about the plans in the first UHC document, and it was a lot had to do with health promotion. And so whatever we could during 2011 to 2016, we did a lot of health promotion. We had the pedigrees, the weight loss competition, we had health fairs, we had cooperation between or among ministries, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Agriculture. Yeah. We had the kitchen gardens. We had the farmers dealing with the school feeding program. So a lot was going into health and wellness, because that is very important. And then we looked at, so we had many cases. We saw the non-communicable diseases. We saw the many cases of cancer. We saw the cases of diabetes and hypertension, and lots of people being hospitalized, people going through, having their amputations, and lots of things happened. People couldn't pay for the meds, etc. Thank God, through the first UHC, people got medication free for diabetes and hypertension. And so while Dr. Ernest Hilaire was the HC for St. Lucia in the UK, he made contact with the philanthropist, Dr. Jufali. And we were very excited when we met with the team. Dr. Hilaire had conversations with myself, and the health team at the time came to explain how, the discussion had gone and what, could have happened. So we were all very excited to hear that a philanthropist was willing to support us in developing St. Lucia Global Diabetes Research Center. And the name of the company or the project, in Switzerland was W Science. And so they sponsored the professionals to come over. We tagged them up with the team from the Ministry of Health, the Chief Planning Department, etc. And the whole idea for the Diabetes Research Center was to allow St. Lucia to become a regional center of excellence in diabetes management and clinical research. Okay, that would have been a model for the other countries in the region and far away from St. Lucia. The advantages were there for the healthcare professionals and improved infrastructure, because we were looking at all of that as the project, the big project as it pertains to diabetics, and having early diagnosis. You know, people, it's only when they get to hospital sometimes and something goes wrong, the eyesight is bad, or they realize they're urinating a lot, or they have a wound that won't heal. That's how they get to know by chance that they are diabetics. But then through the center, that research center, it would be early diagnosis, it would be better care, better quality of care. And it was not only for the public sector, it was private and public sector being involved in that Global Diabetes Research Center. And it was so disappointing, Monday, to hear the Prime Minister just dismiss this and saying, oh, we all know that St. Lucia has the highest rate of diabetes, either in the Caribbean or the world, whatever he said, and we don't need somebody to come and tell us. But the Prime Minister, you know, his tunnel vision never took a chance. Well, I know the reading issue, but he never took time to go through the document, to ask questions. The team members who were there at the time, they were still there to inquire as to what was going on. Dr. Healy was available to speak to him. Everything we do, Monday, in the politics has to be for the benefit of the people of this country. And health is a major, or with them, it should be a major priority. But that was just set aside. We had even done the Clinical Trials Act. We passed that through Parliament. Okay, it became a bill because we were well set to see how St. Lucians could participate in clinical trials. That happens all over the world. And it would have been exciting to see St. Lucians and other persons in the region participating in clinical trials in terms of, you know, new meds and what's going on in caring for diabetics. Under the 10th EDF, Monday, also, as the EU gave us a gift of scholarships for healthcare professionals who could get to study various areas of specialization. So we had people in podiatry, that means foot care. You had people dealing with, you know, mental wellness. You had people dealing with, you know, dental, and a range that was in preparation for the Ogun King European Union Hospital. That was all in preparation. And so we had already had our eyes on the fifth finger at the hospital. Remember, the hospital was designed with 5 fingers, but the United Workers' Party government cut off a finger. Okay? And they gave all kinds of excuses as to why he couldn't afford it and so on. I don't know why things for health, you know, I know health is an expensive area, but nothing can be too expensive. Look at the number of, you know, millions of dollars that they're spending building roads, you know, and health is not a priority now, okay? But we were already looking at the fifth finger of the OKEU hospital as the place where that could happen, or in conjunction with a cancer center or something. We were looking at how we could benefit by cooperating with Dr. Jafali and his team, you know, to get benefits for the people of St. Lucia. Look, now with COVID, we are worse off. Diabetics are worse off. Who cannot afford medication? Who cannot afford the healthy foods? Who cannot afford to, you know, go to the doctor? Things are happening now. Persons are worse off. And if this research center was there, if that diabetic research center was there, we would have had more people trained, because the opportunities were there for professionals to go overseas and come back well trained to deal with diabetics. We would have had people visiting homes and taking care of diabetics now. But no, we have another opportunity. We have another project that was shoved down or pushed down the drain and trampled on by the Alan Chastanet administration. Another great loss for the people of St. Lucia. Very unfortunate, Monday, very unfortunate.
Yeah, and St. Lucia, again, we cannot stress the number of plans that were shelved by this UWP government for you, it's not Labour Party's plans. These were plans which would benefit St. Lucians. The upgrading of primary healthcare facilities, as you just heard, the diabetic center, and I know that would have benefited hundreds of St. Lucians. Again, I mean, even for some, as young as I am, I have a history of diabetes in my family, so that would really assist persons like myself. I know of even young friends who have diabetes themselves, and so this is a problem, and through diabetes, the number of other issues that are related to that, I just think it's a travesty, yet again, that this government pays no attention. But Honorable Philip J. Pierre has promised that this will be a priority to a St. Lucia Labour Party government. Healthy lifestyle, as you heard Sister Alvina speak about, the promotions. I remember the many health fairs, the walks. Sister Emma, you would have taken part in a lot of the You Play walks. I remember that. And as a man who even believes in a healthy lifestyle, you all would know that Honorable Philip J. Pierre exercises every morning. He takes his keto vegetarian diet very serious. And this is the kind of example that we need as a leader. And we know that the plans for healthcare and healthy lifestyle in St. Lucia will be promoted by a St. Lucia Labour Party government. Sister Emma, I know you had a telephone on the weekend through the Foundation Levy. And you're no stranger to this because you have, I remember on the NCF, you would host the telephone through the board to raise funds for persons who needed, whether it is medical assistance, educational assistance. But, congratulations on your second telephone. Tell us why, again, the need for even the first one and now the second one.
Thank you, Mondi. Why the telephone? I know you speak in health, but I think we've skirted around it. But the issue of health is the issue of food and nutrition is extremely important for the whole issue of healthcare. And when I walk around Soufrière, even before COVID, there is always, you have persons who come to the office asking for help. So what we did in the office, we started having a storeroom with food and things. So when person comes, we try to do a little shopping inside there and give them. And then we had COVID. And Soufrière being a tourist capital, most of the young ladies who were employed in the industry got themselves out of work. They were unemployed, they have children, and I felt we needed to address that need. So that was the decision, that was the thinking behind the first telephone. We had that on the 24th of May last year. You may recall at the time of the day, we had pledges of about $56,000. But we continued asking remaining people to pledge and so on. The long and short, we collected $110,000. What we did with that, we provided, some people gave us in-kind donations. So the first round, we gave a small hamper and we gave persons two $50 vouchers. So they got $100 of grocery vouchers that they could get into the supermarket and purchase. We touched in total 1,200 mothers. We gave these vouchers in two tranches, and we started getting the feedback from the young men that we were focusing on ladies and we were ignoring them. So we promised to work on that. But during that time, we also felt it was necessary to register Soufrière Living Day as an NGO, because there were institutions who did not donate the first time because they said they're only dealing with registered NGOs. So from May to maybe December, we worked on a constitution, elected executive, and file the documentation with the Ministry of Equity. We got certified and we have an executive. So Soufrière Levin Aidé is now a certified NGO with the Ministry of Equity. And what we did just last week, 14th of February, was to have the second telephone for the unemployed young men, unemployed fathers in the Soufrière region. Sunday evening, we had up to $26,000 pledged. I know up to yesterday we were up to about 33,000. So the pledge continues. I want to thank the MBC, Dr. McDowell and MBC and the technical team that have supported that telephone wholeheartedly. I also want to thank the artists from the first telephone and the second telephone who have given of the time and the talent free of charge. I know they too are going through a difficult period, but I want to tell St. Lucia how appreciative we are for those persons who have given the time and the talent free. And I always say that it is only in giving that we will receive. So you have a group of volunteers, they came in, we had the show. The feedback that we were getting, it was well presented, professionally presented. I want to thank all the persons who have pledged, and I want to use that moment to remind St. Lucia, remind the people of Soufrière and all of St. Lucia, those who are on island and those who are off island, to continue. The GoFundMe account is still open. The account at Bank of St. Lucia is still open. To use that moment to show that you care, to share whatever, no matter how small, to share so that the men know that somebody cares about them. Because when you talk to them, I could, one of those guys came in, I think it was the Friday before the telephone, and he was angry, and I could see what was happening. And even, I think it was this week again, somebody called on MBC. The guys are angry. They do not know how to manage the situation where they are seeing the man would have been challenged. They do not know what to turn. They do not, and that has its own implications. And really, we need to sit down as a country. And when all of this is happening, we all must say, where is our government? Because we know that the resources of the government itself has been reduced. But we also know that the international community, being mindful of the situation around the world, made certain donations to the government so that they could address some of these issues. To date, the government have held those funds. And there is an anger all over the place. People are hungry, and they are angry, Mr. Prime Minister. You might not know what it is to be hungry, but the people of St. Lucia are angry and hungry. So please release some of the funds that were given to you on their behalf.
Sister Emma, I'm happy that you brought up what we would say are even mental health challenges. In constituencies, and you see that happening. You see the increased crime rate. You see suicides because people are desperate. I know we get a number of requests daily on Facebook. People reach out to us through the constituency offices, and like you said, I know you're not the only one who has a feeding program running through your constituency office, because that is a present they need every day. People don't know how they are going to eat. But if Soufrière has a parliamentary representative, Sister Hippolyte. What has been his response to Soufrière, and a place that, we see a lot of persons walking around the streets, if not to provide financially or through food. What about people's emotional health? Is any of that going on through the parliamentary representative for Soufrière Forcé-Jacques?
Not that I'm aware of. And you're right. At one point, when you look at Soufrière, generally, you would see there are quite a few persons with mental health problems, even before COVID. And at one point, we had a program at the hospital where those persons were cared for. They were able to go to the hospital, they were able to get their medication, they were able to get a bath, they were able to get a change of clothing. Now, to me, that program seems to have fallen by the wayside. So those persons are all over the place, and even to the hygiene and, you're saying, this is an indication that our community don't care. Our parlor rep is like the government, is busy putting roads and saying that, but the lives of the people have not changed. You have not improved the quality of the lives of the people. If they cannot eat in the morning, what do they care whether you have a building or put a piece of wall? And they cannot eat. The wall, you have put roads, but you have given it to a subsidiary company of a minister. So that money is not trickling down to the small man on the road or the small contractor in Soufrière. It has been creamed up by a colleague.
Sister Alvina, I know this is your background, social work, psychology. You listen to the news like most St. Lucians, and you hear about the crime, you hear about the suicide. What do you think is really going on? And I know Sister Hippolyte spoke to it in terms of people's needs, but from your professional point of view, what do you see as the gaps in the society right now and the failings of this government?
Yes. Like Sister Emma, people reach out to me as well to ask for support, whatever I can help them with. People with children, mothers, young men, they ask for support, and I try my best to help out. There is a sense of hopelessness among the people, especially persons who have lost their jobs and persons with children. To have to wake up in the morning not knowing what to give their children. The vendors, those who cannot go to make, the little hustle. That's a pride for and joy for some women to be able to wake up in the morning, do a little hustle to go up and so. Now, when you look at what's happening in terms of communication, Mondi, the children at home, they do not have the devices to do, some of them, to follow the education, the classes. A little entertainment for them because, children get bored. The parents will have to pay to get cable services. If they have the device or they use their phone, they have to top up all the time. Everywhere they turn, it calls for money. They have bills to pay. I heard a man on his voice note saying that his wife asked him to buy meat, and when he finished paying his stuff, he had $40 left, and he has a family to take care of. So this is kind of helplessness and anger pervading. But what I find strange or lacking, and I'm challenging the professionals at this point in time and the ministers who have various professionals within their ministries and NGOs to step up to the plate and provide some kind of support, psychological support, counseling, what have you, via the media, whether it's social media, whether it be the government, NTN. People just come to give briefings about COVID. What else can they do on NTN? But provide that kind of support. And you see independents come in and they're giving you a whole plan of activities and so on. People, that will not give people any joy because they're hungry. Their children cannot access, and I heard a teacher complaining that the children are stressed out and anxious because they don't know what's going to happen with their common entrance exams. Can you imagine children of the convent had to take a break because the government, the ministry cannot understand that this is exposing them every day to take bus to go to school. So, I mean, smart girls, to say enough is enough. There are agencies, government agencies, with professionals who can come on the radio show, who can come on the NTN and GIS and what have you, and provide that support. I'm supposing the government of St. Lucia do not want to hear the cries of the people, because people will call to say what are the issues that they are affected by. They call on Zafenu, they call Christopher, because, it takes a lot for a woman or man to pick up a phone and call anybody and say, I am really broke. They call Rastaman Cherry because they know he's a person as opposed to an agency, an office, and they don't know who's answering the phone and the attitude they get. Because people are angry. You understand? People are angry and they are at the end of their rope and anything would flare up. You understand? And I really want to commend Sister Emma and the Soufriere Leve Aide team. Now they have registered as an NGO. I really salute them, for looking after the men, because it's gender balance, equity. Everybody suffers. So whatever they could do in Soufriere to support, bravo. But I'm saying the government is not listening. The Minister for Social Transformation, the Minister for Human Services, the Minister for Equity, the Minister for Mental Health, the Minister for Finance. These are the ministers who are responsible for the social development of people. That's the caring side of the government. I know infrastructure and finance and whatever, that's about the money. But they have the caring components of government. They are in health, they are in social transformation, they are in gender relations, they are in human services. They have to step up and provide the support to the citizenry, the person who feels that there's nothing. As you hear an increase in domestic violence, in bullying, in crime, you see an increase because relationships are at the edge right now because the men cannot provide, the children are upset, the wives are upset. People are just at the end, and anything will cause a blow up in the home. Where do these families turn for a little bit of counseling, a little bit of debriefing, a bit of listening to, so someone could tell them, try this, go to this place, call this place. What is in place, though, is the question. Okay? SSDF and what have you. Just this afternoon, a young lady messaged me again to say she had spoken to Honorable Spider Montour because her name was taken off, the list of people to provide for, and she had spoken to him and nothing coming through for that. I mean, why are we treating our people like this? Why? And then we have the heart to come and celebrate independence. Why? Why are we doing this to the people? And then, last minute before elections, you want to throw some corn, throw some things at them and have them have a mad rush. I want St. Lucians to know that we are better than this. Monday, I never thought growing up when we used to sing with Joyce O'Geese at independence rallies in the hot sun. That was good times. With a little rocket and the 7-Up. This was good times, even if it was a little bit. But we felt like we belonged. St. Lucia, the land that is the light. The valleys and things. We were singing with our hearts and souls. But I'm seeing that we are losing the heart and soul of this nation. We seem lost. And people do not want you to speak about those things. They take it because it's the politics. Politics should never reach that level to make St. Lucians lose their soul and their love for country and to be so angry at any point in time. You should never do that. Show the people that you care genuinely. And the people are feeling Nobody cares. I heard the fishermen crying out that they cannot go out because to leave at 5 means they're too late. They cannot get to do the fishing. And if they cannot go out, what do they bring? What do they give to their children? What do they give to the family members, the elderly mothers and fathers who are depending on them? The Prime Minister, the Minister for Finance, has mismanaged our country, our economy, our resources. Poor management skills. And on top of it, he does not care about the people of St. Lucia. But I say, I am challenging those ministers with the social development aspect in the ministries to step up and get their professionals onto the various media platforms and reach out to St. Lucians where they can give them some kind of psychological, emotional support. Because if we don't, we will see more violence, more suicides, more crime, burglaries, you name it, we will see more of that going on.
Thank you, Sister Reynolds. St. Lucia, we have our last break. My guest, former Minister of Health, Sister Alvina Reynolds, and the candidate for Force Jacques, Soufrière Force Jacques, Sister Emma Hippolyte. We'll be right back with SLP Town Hall Tuesday. Welcome back to SLP Town Hall Tuesday. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and my guest, former Minister for Health, Sister Alvina Reynolds, and the endorsed candidate for Soufrière Force Jacques, Sister Emma Hippolyte. Sister Emma, I'll go right to you. We've been speaking about, again, the whole challenges and the multiple crises facing St. Lucia, health and economic crises. I know you are a farmer, and we have heard, again, the plethora of issues, whether it's for the fisher folk, farmers. What has been the experience in Soufrière for farmers and for farmers during this crisis?
Thank you, Mondi. Even before I answer, one of the things I would like to inform the public is the Catholic Church has been operating a soup kitchen in Soufrière for a long time, long before COVID. So I really want to thank the church and the volunteers for operating the Soufrière soup kitchen. There, the indigent can have a meal every day. So we really want to thank the parish for that humanitarian act and the volunteers who work there. Now, concerning the question that you asked, yes, I'm a farmer. But within all what is happening there, from COVID to now, what you did not see from the government is an appreciation that irrespective of what the problems are, we must feed our people. People must eat. And in essence, what I would have liked to see is the government assisting. When you walk around, when you talk to the farmers at Force Jacques, I met with some young farmers only on Saturday. They are ready, they are willing, they are on their farms planting, they have no money for imports. But look at the programs that the St. Lucia Labour Party had in place long before COVID. We provided the farmers with assistance. We paid for some young people to go to work, so we gave them assistance on their farm. We also helped them with input. But now this is not there, so the farmer is breaking his back or her back to cultivate, to plow the land, to cultivate. Then they do not have the money for the input. Then there is no structured market. There is no structured market. Then the people in the community does not have the purchasing power. So it's a vicious circle. So the farmer, I could remember the first week in January, I went to the market. Well laid out, ground provision, Christophins, the works. Everywhere, people had a lot of food in the market, but there's nobody to purchase it. our farmers are really getting it from all sides. So as a government, if our government was thinking of the people, they would have sat with the farming community. They would have assisted them, give them some support to allow them to produce. And if they had provided them with that support, then they could have sold the produce at a reasonable price to the persons who do not have much to pay for it. The same with the fishers. You know, our fishers must go out, even though we cannot import food or whatever. But the Lord has given us the ocean. As our fishers go out, then they will bring fish, which is our protein. So a government that is thinking would not go and add $1.50 to the gallon of gas. They would have reduced that amount so that the fisher can go out to bring fish, and then bringing the fish, they would have been able to sell it at a reasonable price. What you find, our government have privatized the marketing board, privatized the fish market, so there is no market for the farmer or the fisher. You have a Minister of Agriculture, but you also have the parliamentary reps. Honorable Harold Stanislaus, his father is a farmer. He goes to the people at Mini and make promises. But how do you impact their lives? That is what it is. The decisions we are making in cabinet must impact the lives of our people, of our stakeholders. So the United Workers' Party government have not addressed farmers. And you know what I'm told? They had, you know, some of the fertilizer from very early that we got from Morocco. The friends have it stockpiled. The farmers don't have it, but the friends have it stockpiled.
Yes, and Sister Emma, I know that you, in your personal capacity, you gave over 100 bags of fertilizer to farmers. So I'm sure that they were appreciative of that gesture. But again, St. Lucians, these are very practical solutions to problems. I mean, and we've seen best practices in the region. We saw St. Vincent with their love boxes. Like Sister Emma is saying, why could we not incentivize farmers so we get cheaper produce and not just to sell cheaper, but just to give, because people are
need
hungry.
food.
I make no apologies when I say that there should be assistance widespread across for anyone who needs it in St. Lucia, because clearly we can't afford it. The Prime Minister boasts that we borrowed over $500 million for COVID-19. Where is the money, St. Lucia? And these are things that we need to demand and that the government accounts to the people of St. Lucia for. And speaking of accounting, Sister Alvina, you know, even with this crisis, we don't see the level of full disclosure from the government when it comes to this COVID-19 crisis. And I know that there were measures in place, a plan in place prior to COVID-19. So can you speak to us about, I know we went through Ebola, we went through chikungunya, we went through a number of these issues before, probably not on the scale, but the plans are there. Tell me how that was under St. Lucia Labour Party and what it should be under UWP government.
Yeah. Thank you, Mondi. And I want to, as we say, tell you that during our time, we did everything as a team. And as you mentioned, I mentioned team. I want to say a special good evening to all our team labor candidates for 2021, especially Virgie, Sister Virgie, our rep to be in Babonneau. When Sister Emma mentioned that we have a Minister for Agriculture, I want to correct that. Sister Emma, we don't have a Minister for Agriculture anymore. We have a Minister of Infrastructure number 2. Because that's all what's going on in Babonneau is roads being constructed. At 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., you see concrete trucks driving the road, plastering. That's what. So they expect Babonneau people to eat concrete. All right? He does not care. If the Minister for Agriculture was paying attention, he would have seen and stood up and told the Prime Minister or Mary Isaac, whoever put this thing in place for 5 a.m., that the fisher folk would be affected. He didn't have to take the fishermen and women to make noise, okay? So somebody can come back to make changes.
Again, lack of consultation.
Precisely. Why is he sitting in cabinet and not... He would have been able to say that would affect fisher folk. Their ability to go out into the sea and come back within that time. He would have said what will affect the farmers, because they cannot get... I mean, I saw a young man quarreling about not getting his slug bait. Granted, he would have been able to represent. My own nephew is overseas, young man saying to me, in Canada, everywhere is open in terms of farmers getting the inputs because the farmers feed the country during this time of crisis. What is Ezekiel sitting there doing? I don't think Ezekiel himself can answer that. But let's move on. During our time, we had the team approach in the Ministry of Health. When there were situations like Zika, dengue, chikungunya through the mosquito, and I had to account for every mosquito in every constituency. Okay, everybody got bitten. I had to respond. And I'm saying this, Monday, because there are some people in the media, okay, the spinners of the news and so on, who were calling for new hospital to be built for Ebola. Overnight, I had to erect a new hospital to take care of Ebola. Why aren't we shutting down the borders to persons coming from Nigeria and Guinea and what have you? Every day they were on the Ebola train. Okay, even one media personality declared that a person with Ebola had landed at Hewanora. Okay, I had to find my way to the station to caution the manager. Mary Isaac, the present Minister for Health, left the CSA and went down to the Hewanora airport to tell the luggage handlers, do not handle luggage. All of that, okay, because they were just causing mischief. But we had an approach. We had a health team comprising of the environmental health officer, the chief environmental health officer, very important role. We had the health planner. We had the chief medical officer who guided us through it all. We had another medical officer and some people within the communications department and myself, and would liaise with other PSAs and of course the permanent secretary. We would liaise with other PSAs, and when the time came and we thought it was time for the cabinet of ministers to be sensitized, to be educated as what was going on, we would go into the cabinet and make a presentation. All questions would be answered because the cabinet of ministers were not only ministers, they were MPs. They represented constituencies. And so they wanted to know how certain things would affect their constituencies. For example, Honorable Musa Jabatis was a Minister for Agriculture. He wanted to know how things would affect his constituency of Vieux Fort North, as well as his farming constituency, his farmers, his fisher folk, etc. So our ministers were well on board in terms of what they needed to know. When it came to Ebola, likewise. When it came to, we had things with rodents and so on, the ministers, we came back, called in, okay, different councils, constituency councils, and they did the cleanup campaign. So it was always a way to disseminate from the health team to the cabinet. During Ebola, we held a sitting of parliament, a special sitting of parliament, to inform all parliamentarians as to where we were. They had a good way to see the PPEs, a sample. We had somebody model the PPE around the parliament room. So all their questions, would be answered. It was a way of allaying their fears so that they too can go into their constituency and calm their constituents. Okay? Because people are panicking. Now that we have the information about the vaccine, for example, what do the cabinet of ministers know? How are they going to, sell or encourage their constituents to be open to the vaccine.
Well, not just the cabinet ministers. Remember, we
With
have
parliamentarians,
yes, we have
but it starts with the cabinet and it moves into the parliamentary group. Okay, the senators and so on. So you start with the cabinet, they plan it, and then they move into parliament, they move into the constituency councils and further afield. Okay, now I'm hearing about the rolling out of vaccines for frontline workers. I am not seeing the cabinet of ministers on the list. I hope this is not a case of where in Antigua the prime minister went and took his own vaccine privately, being flown in. I hope the cabinet of ministers lead by example and get their vaccines first. Okay, this is what we did as ministers in Dr. Anthony's cabinet. We took our vaccines, we took our HIV tests in front of the camera. It was not publicity stunt. It was a PR strategy. It was health promotion. It was a way to encourage people to say that it's safe. We are doing the vaccines. You can take a chance and get vaccinated. We are doing the HIV test on World AIDS Day. You can do it as well. So I hope the cabinet of ministers are the first ones on the line, along with the frontline workers, to take the vaccine as a way of encouraging St. Lucians to keep an open mind. But that is how we did it. We had a team at the Ministry of Health. When Lady Zion, we had this issue on the cargo vessel when the cargo person died and we did not know what the situation was. These were our team members who would be decked in the PPEs and bought this boat, okay, from St. Jude down to take to the mortuary to find out what was going on. The communication with the business place in Guyana and with the other company that was bringing the ship in, that was done at the Ministry of Health level. Monday, I am not sensing what is happening at the Ministry of Health level now. I am sensing a command center being led by the Minister for Tourism, okay? I am not sensing health team health, with the professionals who have been trained, who have studied how to manage this, to come out and present a front to the people of St. Lucia, to give them the confidence to believe in what is being said. Because sometimes you believe it's the cabinet of ministers just take what they can out of what is presented, and Dominic Fede comes to say his thing. We need the team health to come out there, the environmental health officer. We need them to come out there in full force, okay, and show that this is what they have discussed around the table, and these are their suggestions or proposals to the cabinet of ministers, to the parliamentary group, to the citizens of St. Lucia. We need to see that happen for St. Lucians to gain confidence and trust in what is going on. We see a lot of questions being asked. We see a lot of skepticism. We see a lot of anxiety, and it is not good for right now. With the crisis that we are facing, we need people to believe what they're being told, okay? And so that we can fight this all along. But all hands on deck. We need, and I need to tell St. Lucians that they need to continue to wear the mask when they are in public places, even at home when somebody visits, to wash their hands, etc., and follow the protocols. But the government must lead by example. Team Health must lead by example.
Thank you for that, Sister Reynolds. Sister Hippolyte, we are wrapping up, but have you seen any rigorous campaign within Soufriere Forces Jacques for the rollout of the vaccine, for even just general community engagement and education by health authorities on the COVID-19? And you could also just wrap up again in terms of just some plans for Soufriere Forces Jacques in the absence of any from the sitting MP.
So far on the ground, I have not seen anything as it relates to the vaccine. And Sister Alvina is correct, because when you listen to people, a lot of people are very skeptical. So there must be a huge public conversation being led by the professionals. But you're right, and the Prime Minister and the Cabinet leading that, being very upfront so that persons feel comfortable that the vaccine is something that they should take, and that the vaccine has the potential to control. But other people are asking the question, so if we take the vaccine and everything else and you continue bringing, that's what I'm hearing on the ground, and you continue bringing in persons and don't deal with the protocol, because the Prime Minister presents we have to coexist with COVID. And as he started opening the economy, people are still questioning that. Are you opening it too early? Give us a chance to reduce these numbers. And I think that is what I'm hearing on the ground. Now, what I don't know is what the professionals are telling the Prime Minister and whether he's listening to the professionals.
Well, I mean, you saw tonight, a doctor came out and said, we don't have to coexist with COVID-19. We need to get rid of it in the country, make the hard decisions and close down the country, whether it is for 14 days to get rid of it, do a successful rollout of the vaccine, and then we come back as an economy.
So that's what I'm hearing on the ground from John Public. But the Prime Minister has a different plan. So again, that too is going to cause persons to be skeptical. They're saying, okay, so why are we taking this if we continue exposing us to the virus?
Yes, it's the breakdown of trust within the government, and after every update to the nation, there are more questions than there are answers.
And anguish.
But Sister Hibbert, let's just wrap up. Again, what are your plans? I know you had presented a 10-point plan for Soufriere Forces Jacques, which we may not be able to go through today, but just briefly, just some of the immediate plans that you see for the constituents of that you want to represent at the next coming general election?
Definitely, one of the key things that I see, my entire 10-point plan is wrapped up around the environment. Okay. I believe when you look at Soufriere as a space, it's a World Environmental Site already, it's a World Heritage Site. We believe that this is our moment to catch the attention of the world. The whole issue of environment and climate change is there, and that is our moment to use what we have. Now, when you look at our first plan, is to use the God-given gift of the sun, to use solar to replace the normal energy. And that is not just hot water, but to reduce the consumption of energy from the fossil fuel and Lucilic. That is the project, I believe, that is going to do significant things for Soufriere and the people of Soufriere. It is going to do a few things. It is going to help us deal with climate change. It is going to allow us to access international funding. It is going to assist us in terms of a new industry to cause employment in this country. And it is also going to cause the household to have less expenditure. So I think it is a win-win situation for the country, for individuals, for the young people, for work. That is fundamental for me. The second, when you look at Soufriere and our people, Soufriere is not blessed with crown lands. And when you look at Soufriere, the land in Soufriere is extremely expensive. It's all privately owned. But our young people who have been working, salaries are very limited within the industry, the tourism industry. As a government, we must put a plan in place to cause our young people to own a piece of Soufriere. And to me, out of the 10-point plan, knowing that we will be going into the government, into administration with limited resources, if we can achieve just these 2 out of the 10-point plan, we will be transforming Soufriere in terms of the life of the people, and at the same time, the economy.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Emma. Do you want to give, for one last moment, the bank account details? Because some people are asking for it. how does one donate to your telethon, and up till when can someone make donations?
Oh, they can do it all the time. The bank account is at Bank of St. Lucia, 104-530-522.
Okay.
And you can make it whatever checks payable to Bank of St. Lucia, and that is the account that we have. That's the account we used the last time, because they're still within the bank trying to deal with opening of accounts as it relates to the NGOs, but that is a dedicated account that the bank has worked with us to use, and that is what we are using at the moment.
Do you have any online payment platforms? Any GoFundMe?
There is a GoFundMe. Yes.
Okay, St. Lucia, the information will be posted on Sister Emma Hippolyte's Facebook page, so that people
There's also a Soufre Leve Day Facebook page. That's
okay. The Soufre 80. Okay. Any final words, Sister Reynolds, Sister Hippolyte? Thank you again, and we wish you all the best in the upcoming general elections. Soufre Force Jacques, I mean, you see the absence, you know the absence of your own MP, and you have a woman with a plan, a proven track record of success, who is willing to serve you, the people of Soufre Force Jacques. Sister Reynolds, any final words?
Yes, Mondi, just to encourage St. Lucians at this point in time to say nobody can take care of yourself better than you. You have seen that the government does not care. You have seen that the Prime Minister does not care. So you take care of yourself. You take care of your family and your loved ones. And of course, the MPs and family members, if you need help, reach out. Reach out to your MP, because they know where the support systems are. They have the funds. Okay? I don't know what they're holding it for come election day, but you are hungry now. Find your MPs and ask for that help. And of course, take care of each other. Keep washing those hands. If you do not have to go out, I know places are open, SNS and so on. Do not all rush in at the same time. Take your time to go and get the bits and pieces that you need and go back home straight. When you get home, take off the clothes, wash your hands, take a shower with soap. You understand? Protect yourself, protect your loved ones. Wear the mask. I see a lot of young people, I must admit, young people, I'm not saying dropping the ball. Young people, you could do better. Some of you wear the mask beneath your chin. I've seen a few of you. Please, please protect yourselves and your loved ones, especially the most vulnerable and the elderly. And if I don't see you before, happy independence, and do not be fooled by money for elections. See what has happened to us for 4-5 years. See how we have suffered for 5 years. None of us, nobody needs to have that happen to them. Okay? So you have a chance to make things better for your country and for your future, especially the young people. I'm speaking to you. Okay? You have a good example in Bebe and Jeremiah Norbert and some others. You have fine examples of young men, okay, who have children, who have families, who are taking care of their mothers, who are taking care of their siblings, and they're moving on. You have fine examples. Talk to them, and see how the Labour Party will improve your life. Okay? So, have a blessed night and stay safe, St. Lucia. Thank you, Monty.
Ladies, for joining me. The wisdom to just learn from two strong women for me on my political journey also. It's something that I appreciate, and the sterling example that they have set as MPs and also ministers in the cabinet of a St. Lucia Labour Party. But St. Lucia, that's it for SLP Town Hall Tuesday. We wish you a happy independence. We know it will be one of great reflection. Pause, maybe sober than a lot of years, and understandably so. But we do want you to stay safe and take care of yourself and each other. Thanks for joining me. I'm Mondi Lewis, and my guest, former Minister for Health, Sister Alvina Reynolds, and the candidate for Soufre Force Jacques, Sister Emma Hippolyte. Have a good night.